Thank you for joining me, our viewers on independent television and listeners on independent radio. It's been a festival of democracy and a big day, which was formally to take place on the 16th of February, but was rescheduled today, the 23rd of February. And we've had elections across the 744 local governments of the country. And looking at that as important as it is, we've been following trends, following reports, correspondence on how the election has been ongoing. And also, as we know at this point, there are lots of upheavals that is going on, most especially as collusion is ongoing. And discussing this vital issue, which we are still looking on as Nigeria decides, from my immediate left, I have the Dean of Faculty of Arts and Orator of the University of Benin, Professor Eddie Eragbe. Many thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. My pleasure being with you. Good evening, viewers, and of course listeners on radio. Good evening to you as well.
And next to him, I have the immediate past NBA Chairman, Benin Branch. And he is a custodian of the law at that, for him to have been that. And he's no one else but Eddie Asenogwa. Many thanks for coming, Eddie.
Thank you very much, and thank you, listeners, as well.
And next to him, I also have an erudite and articulate legal practitioner, and he is Alakwe Mbanefo. Thank you for coming, Alakwe.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
I start with you, Eddie Eragbe. We've been following the trends, and before now, there were expectations on how INEC is really going to perform. Some had a very wrong perspective, or some were pessimistic, while others were optimistic. But with what you've seen so far, will you say that in terms of logistics, INEC has got it right?
Well, you know, I'm a teacher, and to that extent, we are always awarding grades. That is, we students earn, and it's always very difficult for you to obtain 100%. And being a human exercise, you would make allowance sometimes for lack of perfection, so to speak. And in this particular case, you know, we are dealing with a vast Nigeria, and of course, like you mentioned, 774 local governments, and so many polling units where so many things had to get to. And by and large, from the reports we are getting up to now, because one of the great things about this year's election is that you're getting reports both from the regular media and also the social media, is that yes, not 100%, but largely INEC seem to have delivered, although even here in our state, we know that there were delays in the materials getting to some polling units and all of that, which we thought that with all the planning and then the shift that had occurred last week to today, that they should have been able to get it right. But my take is that for those areas, for example, where there were delays in the coming of materials, to the extent that materials eventually got there, and to the extent that INEC was proactive enough to take a realistic decision that in such areas there was the authorization given for extension of time so that such voters were to be given a chance to vote, as it were, one would say it was the right thing to do. But since we are talking nationally, we are aware now that from the INEC situation room, as reported earlier today by Barrister Okoye, Festus Okoye, one of the INEC commissioners, there are some states where there has been outright violence in some sections, and they have had to cancel elections in those areas, speaking specifically of Rivers State, and interestingly, even Lagos State, and Anambra State, where we have been told that materials were burnt, and of course, with the violence, even in the case of Rivers, reported that some lives were lost. And the right thing to do, of course, is that in such areas, you must strategize, replan, and make sure that within the approved time in the Electoral Act and all, that those elections are conducted early enough. And I would think that this time around, as against the great fears that existed last week, where it was being reported that a number of states were likely to postpone their elections, which would have brought about the fear of these staggered elections. That this time, if it's that it's on polling unit or areas that these things have happened, let's hope that INEC can quickly get onto it and then, of course, get those elections conducted. Okay. So for now, in those states where we are, I think the report is indicative of at least commendable performance of INEC, also commendable performance on conduct by members of the electorate. But this has not been 100%, that is what I want to say. Okay. Because you know that actually when we are grading, I'm just leading you to it, is that our A, in most cases, is 70 to 100, which means there's allowance there. All right. And so we are hoping that whatever problems that come up today, they must do and address them so that the electorate will feel satisfied. Finally, before my colleagues come in, I want to say it's not yet over, because from past experiences about the conduct of elections, what you do at the polling units and all of that, it is not sometimes final. The real final thing comes with the collation and then getting these things to the center and then the announcement of the result. And there have been fears over the years, and experience has shown that things can happen, things have been happening before. So we hope that what has been expressed at the various polling units today is what will eventually be announced in our state and across the country. Okay, thank you. As a teacher, like you said, looking at what you gave, can we also say substantially cutting across the 774 local governments in Nigeria has been relatively peaceful? I think so. What we are, the only, sometimes I'm very careful and guided in my kind of assessment. Because when we are talking of 774 local governments, you will not go on to wars, you will not go on to units and all. And until you have real, because even when you were listening to Festus Okoye this evening when he was giving his report, it was like, I will go into the situation room and will get reports from all the areas. So it will be kind of premature for you to start celebrating. And we are so careful, because if I'm with you now, a deal says, oh, it has been so good, and later tonight you start getting contrary reports, it's like we were just being premature instead of our conclusion. But for now, based on the reports that we're getting nationally, we can say that some great progress has been made. The functioning of the card readers, and of course, what we have said, the delay in the coming of materials to some of the units, I think that definitely could have been avoided. Pictures were being shown of where, in terms of distribution of materials, they gave to many of them, but the corpers couldn't move, the ad hoc staff couldn't move because somehow vehicles were not available. We had the case that came from Enugu, there is the Archbishop, who at about 11 was visibly angry for a man of that stature to say, whereas Mr. President and the wife voted at 8, as we saw, here we are, a whole Archbishop. I can't get materials we preach to follow. Look at this, look at these people. Waiting, what is going on? So those kind of frustrations and things, we think that with the planning that had taken place, they would have definitely done better. Okay. I know Eddie Asenogwa, as a legal practitioner, you are also very careful in making submissions, but let's look at this case. Can we say that, or can you say that INEC has done laudably well?
Well, for me, I think in scoring them, for now, because we are actually going into the critical moments of the election process. Yes. And then, you know, there's this saying that those who do the voting decide nothing, but those who do the counting and the announcements, they decide everything. Because as the law is today, even if you were in a particular polling unit and the result was announced, you are not authorized to announce it. And even if you do announce it, it's not going to count until the appropriate authority so announces the result. So for now, I think with the level of what we have seen across the state, yes, the initial hiccups, the delays, the materials and staff not arriving on time, the issue of in some areas not sufficient materials, and in some areas over sufficient materials, you know, those little hitches. For me, why I may not so again score them very high is because there was a postponement on the basis of logistics. And so if after we had to postpone, and then we are still having the issues of transport, we are still having the issues of not starting on time in so many of the areas, I think that is something I feel we ought to have improved on by now. But be that as it may, and as Prof has said, and I do agree, if subsequently, you know, you picked up those areas where there were delays, from the reports we also got, most of the people who had gone home before, they started coming back, and they came back to exercise their franchise. The materials were there, they eventually voted, then we can say, oh, we didn't really lose anything. For me, I also want to say that in assessing the overall performance for today, we do not have to restrict it to INEC, because INEC may do their own, but the stakeholders, the electorate, the security agencies, all of these, their respective functions is what must come together for you to be able to assess the overall performance of the process. For the security agencies, I think in most of the areas, I would say more than 90% of the areas, there was relatively peace. It was peaceful, the atmosphere was good.
More than 90%.
More than fine.
That's an excellent grade.
So in terms of
generous grade,
yes, in terms of peace and conduct of the electorate, we got reports of some areas where there was little skirmishes in Rivers, in Lagos, in Anambra. There were some videos we saw on the social media where ballot papers were burnt, some places where people snatched ballot boxes. You know, these incidences, they are very pitiable. They are sad that at this level we are still experiencing that kind of attitude on the part of, because these talks, they don't just come. There is some level of desperation. People have paid them, people have mobilized them to do that. And in spite of all the enlightenment, the campaigns that came before this election, that people still decided to do this kind of conduct is something that is condemnable. And then I think, for me, I was just talking with Prof just now, that it's time we go almost 100% electronic.
Okay.
If I am going to vote and I'm here, and 5 minutes I go on my phone or any other electronic device and cast my vote, there will be no ballot box to steal. I put it here, it records somewhere, and people are just seeing it as everybody is voting. I don't need to travel from Lagos to my village to come and vote. I don't need to travel all the way from Kano to come and vote. I have registered, my details are there, I put it on in my phone and filled out the necessary details, and I cast my vote. I am proud to say that the Nigerian Bar Association, in the last 2 elections, we have conducted electronic voting.
So you don't see anything impossible in
it's not possible. With the kind of funds that we have put into our electoral process, with the kind of funds we have given to INEC, I don't think with electronics it will be that expensive. Because look at the cost of producing ballot papers.
Okay,
look
but taking
a
a model, using NBA as a model,
standard, yes,
or a standard, don't you think that would be too small compared to the heterogeneous background and the size of the country?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. You see, there is this adage, the way the head of the elephant is heavy to the elephant, that's the way the head of an ant is heavy to it. NBA compared to the resources NBA has and that which Nigeria has, you know the figure that was given to INEC for this election. If we start saying that, oh, we want to do electronic process, it is cheaper in the long run. It is cheaper. Apart from being cheaper for the government, it's cheaper for the economy. You don't have to travel. You don't have to risk your life. You don't have to, so many things just go in there and in your phone, in your toilet, in your bedroom, in diaspora, you do your voting. And so with that, the risk of people now looking for guns to go on the street is not there. The risk of planning to go and snatch ballot box is not there. The risk of people going out to lose their lives is not there.
Okay.
So all this put together, I think seriously, we need to begin to look in that direction,
okay,
so that we can begin to eliminate some of these little problems we are seeing in the field.
All right, Mbanefo, before now, when the election was postponed from February 16th to today, 23rd, some argue and believe that it could also bring about voter apathy. But with a turnout, would you say same?
Yeah, because the apathy wasn't there for reasons all of us know. The electorate, were quite disappointed by that postponement because they wanted to go and vote. So
that tended to motivate them the more.
Yeah, it did. So today, the turnout, was very wonderful, and what made it more interesting was the fact that people voted and waited for the vote to be counted. And most areas covered by RTV, especially Bowo or 10 or thereabout, we saw the number of people there on ground, even counting the vote along with the INEC officials, ensuring that their vote counted, and ensuring that at the end of the day, they did not get a negative result from what from the votes which they voted, and it was quite encouraging on the side of the electorate. It was quite encouraging, on the side of INEC. But my worry, like my late colleague said, is that INEC had 4 years to prepare for this election, or 3.5 years to prepare for this election. And on February 16th, they told Nigerians, almost a few hours of the election, that they have postponed. And we're worried because a body as strong as INEC ought to be prepared for election 6 months before that election. But from that postponement, the signal that was sent was quite negative. It showed that INEC wasn't prepared for the election, and the logistics they talked about, from what happened today in most states, is to show you that even from that day to 7 days, I was not expecting any magic, that probably we'll have hiccups here and there. Again, the fact that there were still problems on some hotspots also showed that the security agents actually did not do a good job, because given the amount voted in for the security agents, about 700 million, the issue of some talks entering the voting arena to carry ballot boxes ought not arise, because they were security on the ground. If the security men on the ground, what were they doing when the ballot boxes were being carried away by these towns? Also, the problem we have in this country is that we're not ready actually to shift from the status quo to an improved stage. We expected that in 2015, what transpired then, that we ought to have improved from that 2015 to in 2019. But we ought to have, passed some of these stages where we talk about ballot box snatching, crashes here and there, and all that. But like my late colleague said, we got it right at National Assembly when the Electoral Act was amended to reflect electronic voting. Unfortunately, the president never accepted that bill. Whatever his reasons was, nobody knew. But if the president has assented to that bill, it therefore means that 2019 election would have been electronic, and some of these hiccups would have been avoided. But it was never avoided because the amended act never got that assent to the president. However, we can't assess this election from Edo State angle, because to a large extent this state to a large extent is highly civil, and about 80 or 75% of the populace here are quite educated, and compared to some other states in Nigeria. So maybe it would also be premature, like the Prof said, to conclude or to say that the election to a large extent was a success.
Thank you, Alakoye.
Tomorrow morning, when we start to get results or get information from other states.
Thank you. As Nigeria decides, it's expected that you also will be participating by calling us, and as the program progresses, there will be a number displayed on the screen. WhatsApp number, which could only be for sending off pictures, videos, what you assessed in terms of the way the election went. It's quite important that you also contribute by sending this to us on the number that will be displayed on the screen. Big thanks to our viewers on independent television and of course our listeners on independent radio. And I've been discussing with the orator of the University of Benin, Professor Eddie Aragbe, and of course with Ede Asenogwan and Umbanefo Alakwe. I'm your host on this segment, Philip Omo-Gupo. And we're looking at this, Eddie Aragbe, we're looking at what Alakwe just said concerning security. And he tends to blame it on the arrangement of the security personnel of the police. But do you feel same? Because looking at what transpired so far, will you want to say that they bear much of the blame?
No, the basic submission, since I'm with lawyers that we are making here this evening, is that we must be relative in our assessment. If you are dealing with the number of polling units we were dealing with today, the size of our country and all, and then you have some areas where things did not go so well, I think it will not be so charitable to conclude that the security agents did not perform well, because elections are so volatile in our country. So the level of desperation is still very high, that somehow you will not really blame the security personnel. They may have made the best of arrangement, because remember, and that is one of the challenges we have with our elections. We always say that our elections are civil activities. And to that extent, like the Vice President, the presidential candidate of one of the parties was saying in his public presentation, I'm talking now the PDP presidential candidate, when Mr. President was saying shoot outside, almost not shoot aside, but the language was almost tantamount to that.
Like dealing ruthlessly with
that is the last thing you will do in your life. And that will mean, the reaction was that no, our elections have not reached the level where you have to react and kill like that. And so today, for example, part of what actually played out, because I went to cast my vote, was that as it has been before, you had policemen at the various polling centers who were not armed. Most of them just going there, standing with the people.
Yes.
But then they have always talked about 3 levels of security provision, which is that there are those that are there with you, there are those that are close by, that is that you can summon. Then there are those that you can summon when things happen.
Okay.
And today we were told, like in the case of Edo State, where there was it Edo or Lagos now, where there was ballot snatching, they eventually recovered the ballots, and then I think in Gweben, or one of the areas from the central, where there were people that were trying to cause real problems, we saw that the security people came in and those people were taken away from the place. And then there was the other one you showed just now in your news, where some people talks in question that were trying to do were apprehended and then taken away. So it's not that you want to bring out armored cars, all of that, because we are conducting elections. But it's that there should be action, response, anytime these kind of things happen. And then for a whole country, 36 states plus the federal capital, so many areas where these elections took place, and the reports we are getting in most of the areas tends to bother the fact that the citizens came out, the areas were peaceful, and in those states, like he has mentioned, is almost and all of it. So if there are a few areas where there are problems, the next question is, was there enough response, adequate response? It's unfortunate that they talk of ballot box, that is burning of materials, but all you need to do to burn something is to just strike a match. And then the question is, what do you do when things have happened? So it's quite unfortunate. But for me, like I'm trying to say, I was even pleasantly surprised, because moving around today, working with you guys, the media, it was that we were expecting that there would be this high security presence all over the place. But you're almost able to drive around the town today without any harassment or anything from security agents. And I thought that was what we were advocating for. Okay. So for now, like we are saying, let's hope that the reports we'll be getting will not be more. Remember, this is another critical point. Although there are conflicting reports coming, this is a country now where there is insurgency that is on, especially from the northeast, and where you know that Zamfara, Yola, Adamawa, and even the heart of it, Bonu, that those areas are under some kind of a threat. So if today what we eventually got, because I think it was in Gaidem, that is in Yobe, yes, where the governor was prevented, but they said he responded early enough. Yeah. Then there were earlier reports that there were some blasts in Bonu, but later there were attempts. I think for now we are waiting to know what was the real situation there, whether they were actually those blasts. If they were those, then of course from what we are saying, now I'm just mentioning here from what we have been saying, is that it was not such a terrible outing. Thank you. As far as the security agents were concerned. Thank you. We need to get your comments on this. Like I did say, that we will be putting the number on the screen, displaying it on the screen for our viewers on independent television. And the number for those listening on radio is 052 290 052 290 That's the number you can use in calling in. And also for you to send your pictures, pictures about what transpired today, your assessment of it. You can also send videos on it, on the number I want to call now. And also you can send short messages like WhatsApp chats on it. And the number is 0803 872 6759. 0803 872 6759. On this number, you don't call it, just send chats and also pictures on how the electoral process went today and video clips. Well, back to you, Eddie. We'll look at the statement credited to the president because he just sparked a reaction on that. Eddie Ragbo just sparked a reaction on that when he spoke about that. And now, some have said that it meant that there should be jungle justice. Because categorically, if we want to analyze that statement, what the president really said was that he is going to ensure that security agents deal ruthlessly with those who snatched ballot boxes today. But don't you think that that statement summarily wouldn't have meant jungle justice as a custodian of the law? How do you interpret that?
No, it did. Straight away, I'll tell you it did. And, you know, the handlers in their reaction to it eventually
try to moderate it.
Some of them even said no. Like somebody like Festus Keyamo who came out to say, I will tell the governor and the president to say it over and over again, and that he was right. When you say, oh, if you come out, ballot box snatchers, we pay with their lives. We pay with their lives. You know, and that they come out and they do that, they do so at the risk of their lives. What does it mean? You are not a court. The process is very clear. It is clearly an offense. Whether you bring it under the Electoral Act, or you bring it under the criminal code or criminal whatever law, it is an offense. The same law has stipulated the punishment for that offense. The same law has made provision for the procedure to determine whether or not you have committed that offense, whether or not you are guilty of that offense. And so, for the president to expressly say that, oh, once we are caught, security agencies are going to deal with you ruthlessly, it's a call to jungle justice.
But don't you think that also brought some sanity? Like we didn't really experience a substantial situation where there was violence?
For me, I want to say this. I believe that there was some level of anticipation that there was going to be ballot snatching. Because if we want to be honest, it was not this bad in 2015. We didn't experience this level that we have experienced now in 2015. 2015, I mean, the security arrangements, the issue of ballot box snatching was almost non-existent.
Really?
Yes. You may have to recall it.
Well, because
yes,
I think
for me,
that could be taken with a pinch of salt.
let's go back.
Yes, for
Let's go back
historical
and look at it.
accuracy, yes.
For historical accuracy. Let's go back and look at it. For me, that election, you and I know, was declared free, fair, and credible. There was no fighting. Because the then president had said, my ambition is not what the blood, the life of any Nigerian citizen. 2019, the president is saying, ballot box snatching, let people die. And for me, even if you commit that offense, there is room for trial. You must be tried, and that is why, even when you commit an offense before a judge, in the presence of a judge, you will not come to the court of that judge and they just say, no need for any evidence.
Really?
I was there when you did this. I hereby sentence you to death. No.
Must prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
The law says there is presumption of innocence. The law says that you must prove the guilt of that person.
Okay. Okay, I'll come back to you. It seems we have a call. Caller, tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Good evening, we can hear you. What's your name?
Good evening.
Can you tell us your name?
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Dorcas Emmanuel.
Go ahead, where are you calling from?
My name is Dorcas Emmanuel.
Okay, Dr. Emmanuel, go ahead. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling for Ekewa Road.
Okay, go ahead with your contribution.
Where I vote, everything was peaceful. There was no fight.
Okay,
Good.
thank you. Thank you. Doctor said where she voted, everything was peaceful, no violence. Thank you. So
that's the point I'm making. Even if you do commit an offense,
Yes.
the law also stipulates the procedure that you must go through before the court can say, well, yes, you committed this offense, and then some form of punishment will be pronounced. So for the president to say, and I'm happy, the Inspector General subsequently said, well, no, ballot box snatchers will be arrested and prosecuted.
The chairman of INEC also said.
The chairman of INEC also came around to say, well, no, if you commit an offense, or it is an electoral offense, and you will be arrested, and the law will take its course. That is what it should be. So, and for anybody to try to justify, or, how do I put it now, give you some form of cosmetology to say, oh, what the president said was right, to me, it's absolutely wrong. There is nothing wrong with the president saying, oh, well, I said this, it was in the passion of maybe the seriousness of the moment and the form of heat of all of that. I might mean that. But when you go ahead to begin to justify, it's a double offense. It means that you know, and you are still insisting on it, that this is what I meant. And that makes it very funny.
okay, let's take a bite on that, Alakwe.
Yeah, Eddie Asinagwan is on point.
It's on point.
Very much on point, yes. Like I said earlier, the Electoral Act made it very clear that if you are involved in such an offense, is that you pay a fine, or you go to prison, or you pay a fine and also go to prison at the same time. It's very, very clear on that. And so the statement made by the president is quite overreaching. Very, very overreaching. So sad, because the president ought to know the position of the law. If he does not know, the Attorney General of the Federation will let him know what the law says. And like my colleague said, nothing stops him from saying, well, I apologize for that statement I made. I said it out of the heat on ground. After the INEC has postponed the election, I was angry, and that statement made it, the passion. So I hereby withdraw the statement, or I apologize. This is the president is a servant to the nation. He's a servant to the nation, and he is leading us. So he owes us that duty to say, I'm sorry, that having consulted my Attorney General of the Federation, he told me this position of the law. I'm not a lawyer. But for him to say so, and a senior advocate of Nigeria who is working for the party now come to the press to justify it, is quite unfortunate.
Okay.
So, however, having said that, you understand, the lady that just called told her that when he voted was quite peaceful. I said it earlier, that those states is one state in Nigeria. that is quite different from other states. Can't compare those states to Kano State, can't compare those states to Rivers State, can't compare those states to Borno, Bauchi State, and all that. So, like I said, it's premature to assess the election right now.
Okay, we had some issues of arrest in the course of the week. Basically, some of them were detained up to yesterday, looking at the clashes that took place in Kaduna and also in Kano, even Kwara State, where we had Rufai Ibrahim, who is a candidate in this election, and also that of Abdulmumin Jibrin, who is also a candidate. Yes,
Kano, in
Kano. Yes. Looking at that, because basically there was this argument raised by some political parties, majorly the PDP, that few hours to the election, there's this challenge where you see the policemen, as in the security agents, arresting leaders of political parties. But again, can we say that because they are candidates in the election, they can be arrested if there are issues that has to do with investigating a crime, like what transpired in these states? What do you make of this?
If I may ask, the people arrested, are they opposition party members or are they members of the ruling party? I want to claim on this.
Yes, they are.
They are members of the ruling party or members of opposition party, yeah.
And I think one or two were also of the ruling party.
Of the ruling party, okay.
Yes, that is like the case of Kano, where the attack was against Kwankwaso.
Yes.
And the person arrested was of
Yes,
was of the other party.
Well, I want to say this, that in this country, no one is above the law.
Yeah.
So if a citizen commits an offense, and by the opinion of the security agents, they feel that in the course of the investigation, the person is really guilty, or, of course, is found wanted, the person can be arrested, anybody can be arrested. But the situation whereby the ruling party is trying to intimidate the opposition party because the security agents are under their payroll, that is quite, that is unacceptable.
At least they can be arrested for questioning.
Yeah, it's quite unacceptable because if you arrest a member of opposition party because you feel is a threat to you, then it's wrong. But if the member of the opposition party, to your own opinion, is an offense was committed and it's traceable to him, there's nothing wrong if the police invites him for questioning. But unlike the case of Benue State, where the governor is saying that members of PDP, some officials, members of PDP was arrested by the police for, on no reason.
Okay.
So that one can be said to be intimidation by the ruling party against the opposition party.
All right. I believe we have a call. So caller, please tell us your name and location and make your contributions.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Nusa.
Nusa, where are you calling from?
Okay.
Go ahead with your contribution.
I really want to ask a very simple question.
Go ahead with the question.
Okay, the ballot papers that were bought in Lagos, what's going to happen is that either it's going to be cancelled or the election is going to be reconducted. Thank you.
Well, reports reaching us on that is that areas where we have issues, there will be a rescheduled date for the election.
Yes,
but we don't know when that will be. But there were also areas where card readers failed, and it's expected that there will also be a conduct of that election. But we're looking for a date. Will that be all? Okay, hello caller, tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Hello?
Yes, tell us your name and where you're calling from.
This is Honorable Alex, calling from Benin. I said that already was good, and the election was peaceful and there was no violence.
Okay, peaceful.
Yes, very peaceful. And what my contribution is, one of the speakers there was talking about electronic voting.
Electronic voting, yes, go ahead.
Yes, in Nigeria has not gotten more than that. This is because there are still a lot of communities where there is no network. The base of communities, there is no network there, and some old persons are not internet oriented. So it will take a long time to really stand on electronic voting, or like the Western world. Let's think of saying access to the Western went to so Nigeria is still a developing country to me because so many villages are still there that are still in darkness, both internet-wise and all that. So it's going to take a long time to really work on electricity. It's a good idea.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that statement was made by Eddie Asenogwan when you made an example of NBA as a standard. That if NBA could have done that, then you see no reason why Nigeria won't be able to do it. Okay, but let's expand the scope. Okay. Is it really possible?
No, well, I will just address that there is something more important I think I want to also address. And that is that before you get into such a mega shift from what we have been used to, you must plan well, you must study well, you must look at your strengths, your weaknesses, and all of those things before you go into them. Because you wouldn't believe it, when I went to the States in the 1980s, I was heavily involved in what you call internet banking and all of that while I was in the States. But when I came here, and then I observed some of the problems that were on with internet, I moved away from it. And that is because things that are normal in other climes, once you bring them to this place, they are so subject to manipulations and all, that it might look so nice that, electronic thing would be the way to go. But immediately you are getting in there, like a presenter was mentioning in one of the network programs recently. We find that there is so much that is involved in electronic manipulations that if you now want to go there, from what we are seeing already now with social media and things, how these things can manipulate, it will not be something you just jump into. But I agree with him that there should be some improvement in that. Look at even the basic thing about card reader that we have been battling with since 2015. We are still not getting it right. Basic card reading thing. That when it happened in 2015, Mr. President then, he tried and could not vote. You know what I'm saying? This is a country where we are still battling with basic electricity issue. That is the kind of thing he's mentioning. Okay. Where you can be in an area for a whole month. All right. Almost no lights and all of that.
I'll come back to you. And we have a call. Hello, caller. Hello, caller. Good evening. Okay. We've lost that.
Yeah. Just to pick up from where the barrister came up.
Okay. We have the caller now. Hello, caller.
Yeah, hello, good evening.
Good evening. Tell us your name and location and contribute.
Okay, I am Emmanuel. I'm calling from Papero.
Go ahead, Emmanuel.
Yeah, the election conducted with me was really peaceful. Many of polling centers. But what I'm confused about that happened in Lagos that they have ballot papers in vote. What's going to happen to the vendor? Either it's going to be cancelled or the election is going to be conducted in that position.
I can barely hear you.
I think he was asking that in certain areas ballot papers were not enough and elections were not conducted there. His question is whether they are going to conduct elections in those areas.
Okay, thank you for that.
I think INEC people
because of it we will look into that because that happens to do with INEC substantially. Yeah. And okay, back to
the real issue I wanted to pick on is what we might want to call the Edo model in terms of elections now. Yes. And why am I saying that? As a student of history, I remember some years ago when I was doing some of my first presentation, I was talking about the level of religious tolerance that we have in Edo State, which we thought we could recommend to the nation. Yes. And that is just a small thing, which is that in most homes in Edo State, for example, you can have Muslims, you have Christians, they live together. The extremism that we see in other parts of the country in terms of religion is not so clear in Edo State. In the same vein, we must not fail to commend our governors, for example. We must not fail to commend our traditional rulers, led by His Royal Majesty, Omonoba Ukwakolopolo. And we cannot fail but commend our religious people, traditional rulers, the press and all in Edo State. Why am I saying that? Is that in the build-up to this election, you could see civility, you could see moderation in the language of our people here, right from the political echelon. That is talking of maybe the government officials, even those in government and everybody, they were always advocating peaceful things. You get what I'm saying? But in some other parts of this country, the bellicose nature, militarized language of some of those people built up to this tension, and that is the kind of violence that has come up today. You know what I'm saying? And number three, or number two, I would say, is that I'm not saying that there are no political godfathers in Edo State now, but that level of these czar kind of political leaders that believe that they control the entire system, I think there is a level where we can say in Edo State now, there is some level of it that there is no single individual or that you can easily identify. Like in maybe we know some of the states now where somebody can just take the entire system and turn it around.
So it's no longer an issue.
I'm not saying that they are no longer there, but that visibility before now, where these people are so desperate, control the entire machinery, they recruit thugs and all of those people, it seems to have died down. Okay. And so we are, what am I calling out the Edo model, is that for what we have seen, I'm also careful not to now overgeneralize that it is cool here, there are no more conflict and all. But at least from what we have seen here, the campaigns that went on in Edo State, the elections that went on today, the way the people comported themselves, I think that is the kind of thing we are trying to advocate for Nigeria. Okay. And so we can only build up on it. Because you know how many times Yomonoba himself invited the political leaders. He brought the Eniges and all to his palace to address them. Then in different areas, the churches, they were always preaching about it. And I think that is partly what we have reaped here in Edo State today. So it is the way to go in Nigeria. And it is that elections should not, as we keep saying, a do or die affair. We must know that it's a cycle. If you don't get it today, you can get it next time around. And I thought we could even take a cue from what happened to the current president of Nigeria, who went on, contested 1, 2, 3 times, and then I think it was the 4th time that he got it. Yes. And then we must also now celebrate what the immediate past president did, which was that he wasn't that desperate to clinch on. His body language was that even his followers, who were ready to say, let's pull down the country. We know the drama that took place at the conference, that is the final collation center, where Urubebe and I think so Urubebe now stood up and said, you can't continue like this, and confronted Jega as he then, the chairman of INEC then. He had to take a call from the president to say, take it easy. And then that historic call that was made by Mr. President turned around the history of our country. Because remember, all the prognosis and predictions up to 2015, we're talking of disintegration of this country. But that action of a statesman was practically what we believe went a long way to save the country. Okay. We are looking for such men in our different areas. Not people that are always saying, if you are singing war songs, you know, ministers will come out and say, if you try this place will burn. And they make such statements, it's war. And they make such statements, they let them go away. I think that is where, again, finally, so that my colleagues can come in, we should not just keep making statements that, oh, there is build-up of arms. When I hear security chiefs making such statements and you are not arresting anybody, then of course how can you be making such statements? If you say there are arms built up, who are the people building up arms? Why are you not apprehending them before the things happen? You know what I'm saying? So it's all part of what we must do to get this country to have better elections.
Thank you. As the election went on, as voters came out en masse today, we also had issues where the aspect of vote buying played out. Yeah. Now, we don't know, can you say that it was reduced as compared to that of the previous election?
I think the last election where the issue of vote buying really became prominent was the last governorship election in Edo State.
Okay.
I also believe that it reduced in this election because it was not as much as we had it, because here again, maybe because the governorship election
so it's not on yet.
So the main one in the state is not just there. But for me again, I will still take it back to the electronic vote. I got report that in some of these votes, people said, if you are not giving me it's either you allow me to vote for who I want to vote for, or you keep your money. They say, okay, still take the money. So you want to not take the risk. Either that may influence him, or you just let the money go, or instead of, the person may become offended or even angered. Oh, because I told you I want to vote by conscience, now you refuse to give me the money. Even if I wanted to vote, I would not vote against you. So it's a double-edged thing. But I think that if we get the electronic system, even if you come to give me, there's no way you will see me in a particular place on a queue where you want to snap my ballot paper. It's not possible, because I'm going to do it on my phone, in my toilet, under my bed, in my bedroom, in my parlor, where you will not be there. Okay, where the political godfather will not be there.
Okay, but outside the electronic voting.
The point I'm making, if we have that, nobody will risk coming to give you money. Nobody can tell you he's coming to buy your vote, because you can't be everywhere where I will be making my vote. Okay, but looking at the modified, open and secret ballot system. Yes, for now. Because in some places, even like where the president voted in Daura, yes, we had some relative feature of the modified, open, secret ballot system, yes, where it was seen being attended to, giving him the ballot paper, and at the point where he had to cast his vote, and even the wife, they got to a box, as in a cubicle, where they cast their vote. But in some other polling units, many of them, we never had that cubicle. It was open. Isn't that also a room that we call it a vote by? Very wrong, because looking at the guidelines, yes, where you are supposed to cast your vote is supposed to be private and secret. Yes. It's supposed to be private and secret. Again, that will be a function of logistics, because these cubicles, which wasn't right. It wasn't right. Because your vote, your ballot is not supposed to be seen by any other person. And that was why INEC came up with the rule that you are not to take your phone with your phone. Yes, yes. So you can't go snap.
Sorry. Yes. Yes. Still electronic voting matter.
Then you can't snap it. Where nobody will be looking at, because even from the pictures we saw, we could see the president even trying to confirm that the wife voted for him.
I don't know about that. We don't know about that. We don't know about
But the point I am making is that, you know, when you allow others, or you arrange it in such a way that somebody could look at your ballot, it's already almost like a compromised process. Yes. Because you don't want somebody else to go and say, oh, this person didn't vote for me, or this person voted for this person. That's why the law says it should be secret, except maybe subsequently you want to say it. If you decide not to say it, it should be a secret known only to you. So for me, it's like we go to and fro. Yeah. And that's what's really painful about the whole exercise. We think we are getting it right today, all of a sudden
takes 2 steps backwards.
Like 2, 3, 4, 5 steps backwards. And that's quite painful, because for me, I believe that with every election, we should be improving. Because
so the electoral voting would have been able to tackle this aspect of vote buying.
It will eliminate substantial parts of the problems we are having now. It may have its own problems, especially as we are starting. You know, it will have, but as we go along, you begin to perfect it. Look at, for instance, the card readers. I believe that today was better than when it first started. You know, those days you find you have to be cleaning, using your spirit to clean your tongue. Sometimes they say, go and press, go and this, go and... But in some areas, they have performed better. That's the kind of thing we want to see. Apart from the fact that technology can fail, network can fail, and all of that. But let us see that the human aspect of it, the planning aspect of it, we are improving on it by the day. And that's why I said initially that if we had to postpone because of logistics, then by today, we ought not to be hearing anything about logistics. Don't forget, before the last postponement, INEC had always insisted that everything was in place. If a few hours to the commencement of the election, you now discover that it was not in place, one would have thought that, oh, maybe it was 1 or 2 little things that would just fix. And for them to have come out to say, oh, in 7 days. So, in 7 days, we are still having some little issues of logistics. It's not something that is quite healthy.
Okay, thank you. Alakwe, what's your bite on that in terms of the vote buying that was also alleged that as featuring in the electoral process for today?
Yes, I think if we are talking about today's election and vote buying, why most people refuse money, is very, very clear. You know, the electorate has a choice to make. Either to vote for party B or party A or party C, looking at what they represent. So if all is well with you and the economy is working, there is security, and all the Medicare is there, and everything is working as planned. Well, you have a choice to make. And if it's not working, and somebody is offering you money and say, please, we want to remain in power, please take this amount of money and vote for us. You have a choice to make as well. Let's take that money and throw away your future, or forget about the money and vote for a better future. So if you ask me, in 2019, the political awareness people had this year was quite tremendous.
Yes.
Through social media, through regular media, and through what is happening on a daily basis, people have come to realize that the mistakes they made a few years ago, they don't want to make it again this year. And so I think the level of political awareness today was what reduced the issue of vote buying. It's not as if people did not come to the polling booth units with money, they came.
We even had a situation where a woman was found, you know, giving out PVCs.
Yes,
and to a great extent, we expected that the policemen will apprehend the woman, but so far we didn't see that, but we just hope that that was later taken care of. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, I've said it before in different fora, that Nigerian police force ought to be Nigerian police force, and not a ruling party's police force or opposition party's police force.
Okay.
So, by the way the name sounds, the proper thing is that Nigerian police force is supposed to be Nigerian police force. And so a situation whereby a party in power or any person, be him Mr. A or Mr. B, is trying to use security agents to market his ideology against the other people. It's not the best. And so this year too, there's a lot of sanity in this year's election when it's regarding the security agents than the previous elections. Because the security agents are part of this country. They live with us here, they buy from the same market with us, they go to the same hospital with us, they see everything happening every day. And so if you mortgage your future and that of your children because of a peanut, then only God knows whether after the election your children will travel to the United States if you can afford it, or go through the desert in the schooling there. So the awareness too, you know, was equally able to reach out to security agents. And so in that case, if somebody was found with holding PVCs and all that, and security agents refused to arrest that person, those security agents supposed to be arrested.
There was one Basio from Akwa Ibom State that was found with about 244 PVCs.
Yes, I think that helps to explain why so many people could not carry their PVCs.
Yes. Now we look at the stretch.
Yes.
We look at the number of PVCs according to INEC that we are giving out, over 72 million.
Yeah.
And then we look at the voting population, which is 84,484.
That registered.
Yes, that registered. We look at the difference, we have about over 11 million PVCs that could be unclaimed.
Yes.
Now, looking at the issues about PVC theft and all of this hoarding of PVCs, and then the allegation put forward by the main opposition political party, PDP, over some INEC officials colluded to, you know, give these PVCs to some political party. What do you make of this? Don't you think there could be some argument that may support that?
Well, my take would be that first I was going to also respond to or react to the point made by Barrister Banefo on the point of maybe the ruling party, maybe their agents were the ones with cards. That was not proven at any time. It was simply that someone, a lady, was seen distributing cards. And so that point has to be clarified. And what it also means, even this question of vote buying, as I will come to the question of PVCs, is that the two major political parties that we know seem to be culpable in most of these things that we are talking about. It's not the exclusive preserve of any. In the elections that were conducted in Ekiti, Osun, and all of that, which now brought to the fore the issue of vote buying in the public glare, because it wasn't so obvious until this last elections.
Yes.
It was that the two parties were almost outdoing each other, which was the allegations were along the line. One will be paying 5,000, the other will be paying 3,000, and all of that. And the same thing, what is worrisome here, because I was feeling very disturbed, I think it was last night, when I was seeing the figures of PVC's collection. And one will not want to be sectional in his analysis, but we are dealing with the realities on ground. The realities on ground are showing us that in certain parts of this country, PVC collection was in the region of 97, 96, 91% of PVCs that were collected.
Impressive.
And these are areas where ordinarily you would think that the people are not, in quote, highly politically sensitized. But you come to this area that is down, the bulk of the PVCs allegedly that were not collected were supposed to have come from the southern part of Nigeria. And you ask the question, why that?
Why that?
And then on daily basis, we're getting pictures, reports of citizens that will leave their jobs, leave their businesses, go to INEC offices, try to collect their PVCs, they will not be seen. We are now knowing where the PVCs really have been. Because for individuals to be having such number, and if they are true PVCs,
So that seems
there
to
must have been some collusion somewhere.
and that seems to support the
And those
allegations.
things should be, there should be inside in-house investigation. Because it's not enough to just say somebody was found with 240. Where did these things come from? Who was the rep in charge of that area? Who were the INEC officials who were supposed to have distributed those things? If we do that, then we might be in a better position to stop this kind of perversion that is going on in our political system in our country. So it is something that is wrong and painful. Because I witnessed, my wife, for example, we used to be on the same, we used to vote at the same location. After a lawyer, a barrister you know very well, she registered for so long her card never came up. She had to go and register before she finally got a card somewhere.
Okay, we have responses. We have one who said that I couldn't vote today because I wasn't given my permanent voter card. I went to INEC office 2 times. They could not find it. And this is, okay, good evening, presenter. I voted at the UBTH polling unit, though materials arrived late. Voting was very peaceful. Unfortunately, this wasn't the same in some parts of Lagos, Rivers, and Anambra. It is very sad that despite the assurance from the IG of maximum security, hoodlums could still snatch ballot boxes. It's a shame. And this is from Martins. Okay, we have another respondent. It says, good evening and well done. Good coverage for the coverage today. My name is Mrs. Eko, and I'm texting from Birmingham. I think election was probably fair enough, but there was a report of somewhere in Ikpobaoha that had 1,000 plus registered, but 200 ballot sheet was brought in by INEC. Where did the over 1,000 ballot sheet disappear to? Question. Now, another, if our bank transaction is electronic, why can't INEC build a system whereby voting will be done electronically? Big one. And also, my name is Daniel. I'm calling from Ogida, where I voted. The security men were not active at all. My number, okay?
So my name, or that should be name.
Okay, yeah, that should be name. My name is Roland Imafidon.
For me.
And for me, I commend security in
Ward 4.
In Ward 4, yes. That Ward 4 in Owelu Ego. In my, okay, this is another comment. Yes. It says, in my unit, Air Force Primary School in Airport Road, the election was peaceful. And another says, peaceful election in my local government, Oedo Ward 10. And
Unit 7.
Okay,
Unit 7.
Well, we have a lot here. I want to commend the initiative of accreditation and voting. At the same time, it reduced the stresses to
electoral passes through,
yeah,
compared to previous
elections. Thank you very much. Well, following that comment, Eddie Senogwa.
Well, we have agreed here that well, putting it together, the election was relatively peaceful.
Yes, yes.
And that's what we are getting. On this issue of PVCs, it raises a lot of questions. PVCs are private properties. It has your name, it has your biometrics, it has your picture. You ask the question, first, how did this person get this number of PVCs that are supposed to belong to that number of other persons? Because I am not aware that PVCs can be collected by proxy. Now, it means that if they went to get it from INEC, there must have been some collusion. There was even an allegation that it was being sold. Secondly, if you now have it, it's also possible you bought it from the respective owners. Okay. There were allegations that, oh, trader money or some kind of money was being given out and your PVCs were collected, or somebody will come and say, oh, I want to buy your, even before the election. It's possible. They met the people in their houses and say, oh, let me have your PVC. This is 10,000, this is 5,000.
That could also be possible.
That could also be possible. But in the face of these possibilities, either of them, how do they plan to use it?
That's a big one.
How do they plan to use it? Because ordinarily, the voting process does not allow, if I have a PVC, the officer there is going to look at your face, he's going to look at the card, and then you are going to turn print. So if your face does not match the picture on the card, how are you going to use it? Again, the only way you can use it is some form of collusion or compromise. So these are basic questions. People had the belief that they could maybe circumvent all of these processes. Don't also forget where there was the allegation raised by the presidential candidate of the major opposition who said, look, the card readers were being reconfigured to identify some PVCs wrongly. There was an allegation where he said that the person who has a contract of producing these card readers was even a candidate of the ruling party. INEC did not deny it. INEC only said, oh well, he's been our contractor since as far back as 2015 or 2011. But then he was not a candidate. Now he's a candidate. You cannot. Morally wrong. Because for us, it is not that the election should be free and fair. I keep insisting.
Transparent.
It is not enough for it to be free, fair, credible, transparent, and all of that. No. It must be seen by everybody to be so. You understand? The stakeholders, the participants, the voting public, the objective observers will see it. That was not the one INEC will come and say, or we will come and say, let the ordinary man on the street say, well, this election was fair and fair. It is the cumulative response or reaction of people based on what they saw on ground that will make us come to the conclusion that, oh, well, yes, this election was free, fair, credible, and all of that.
Back to your question, back to what you said INEC did not deny it.
Yes, they did not.
Now, does it mean that they accepted it?
They accepted that, yes, the candidate of the APC was the contractor. They accepted that he was the person that supplied the card readers. They did not also say anything that, oh, well, they only said that, well, the process may not be capable of being compromised. For me, that's not good enough.
That's not good enough.
It's not good enough. And so if we are now having people having card readers which are supposed to tally with your biometrics, which is supposed to be tested electronically at the polling unit before you can use it. If you are buying it, what is the purpose for your buying it if you know you cannot use it?
Okay, as we said, okay.
I just wanted to, some of these, since we are being recorded and all,
yes.
I think we need to check. I'm not so sure now that it was actually the card readers that they said the senatorial candidate from Nigeria was, but I think it had to do with some of the materials and all, because you have to know that, no, I don't believe that one single individual had the right to that. It said one of your people.
He said,
I said you should check.
But that INEC configured it.
We don't have the right panelists to
be sure.
We are supposed to be getting responses from INEC.
To be sure. So I just wanted to be clear. Because my dear friend, MBA, they will not say, they made a deal right here, and they are saying we're saying this.
Yes.
I just wanted to.
So please, let's leave that. Let's look at the plan of INEC, what INEC said, INEC leadership, that by 10 p.m. tonight, I think we have roughly 12 minutes to 10.
Yes.
All right. By 10 p.m. tonight, the card readers will automatically shut down. What do you think is the positive outcome of this?
They will reactivate them again since they might be back.
Well, I think
First, do you see that as laudable?
In Nigeria, most times nothing works. It doesn't work completely.
You sound pessimistic.
The point there is this, you understand? The federal government of Nigeria has always seen INEC as an ad hoc ministry. In my own opinion, INEC is supposed to be an institution that will be empowered by the federal government and ensure that there are staffs that can be kept on ground. If we can discover all this money in people's apartments, we can afford to fund INEC and keep INEC alive for another 4 years. It's not when it's time for election, we have to run up and down to recruit workers. If you want to do this election, about 60% of the workers used today were workers that was picked here and there for the purpose of this election. And I think Nigeria have overgrown this level. We have the money, we have the resources. What stops us from ensuring that INEC is well empowered, to ensure that INEC is a very strong institution, to ensure that INEC is given the necessary finances it requires to put something, a structure, a very solid structure on ground for subsequent elections, so that these things will not be try and error stuff. If you're telling us that these things, machines will shut down by 10 o'clock today, it's not as if we're experimenting. It's going to work. But after this election now, the whole thing will be packed up again for another 3.5 years before we start talking again how to conduct the election. The earlier we start to look at elections beyond today, it's better for all of us. Like my colleague is talking about electronic voting. Electronic voting, we can start to try it from now. For instance, this election, the only area we give credit to INEC is that they were able to devise a means where people that are physically challenged can vote. And they did it only for presidential election, so that people who are physically challenged can use, I don't know what they call it,
for visually impaired.
Yes, to vote. And probably before now, we may be seen as an impossibility, but today it is a possibility.
That's a huge development.
That's a good, yeah. So we're supposed to upgrade from where we are today, so that by the next 4 years, we won't be having these hiccups.
Okay, thank you.
We'll not be saying, okay,
thank you.
In 2019, we were here.
Okay. As we round off, thank you. As we round off, because we are pressed for time.
Let me just
one thing.
Shutting down.
Yes. Yes.
For me, I think the 10 p.m. deadline is even too far.
They should have done it.
Yes. Now, I mean that I believe that it must have been programmed. So if we say 10 p.m., were they anticipating that
the election closed
to get up to 10 p.m.? No. And so if we, by all reasonable standard, we expected our elections should have ended by 7 p.m., 6 p.m., where there were delays. So why extend it to 10 p.m.?
You said till 10 p.m. 10 p.m. is just a few minutes. Just as like I want your reaction on that. You earlier had been clear when we started this show about the fact that it's one thing because it's too early to judge. It's one thing for us to have a collation. As in figures pasted in polling units, for instance.
And what eventually
something different comes out.
Yeah.
Now, in all of this, as we round off, as a check and expectations for this collation to go successfully, where there won't be litigations, and even if there will be litigations, it will be greatly minimized. What do you expect INEC and stakeholders to do in respect of this?
Straight away, give us the results. Yes, I know. Give us the results that people voted. That is, give us the results of how people voted today.
Okay.
That is the right thing to do. Especially this presidential, this is National Assembly, so it's not a question of governorship and all of that. We expect the people that have been given the mandate to conduct these elections to please now release the results as reflected from the various polling units today. That is what we expect from them.
Okay.
And it's along that line, because it touches my heart, being a close friend of the media, the civil society group, NBA, and many others. I think we cannot just give everything today to INEC for whatever success they achieved. We must also commend civil society groups, the groups, professional groups such as FIBA, FIDA, NBA, My Own Body, then of course the media, for the level of involvement of sensitizing Nigerians, and of course the people here. That is where today I was also saying the traditional institution and all of that must be commended for the role they have played, because this is a Nigerian project. It is our destiny that we are trying to entrust to new people now for the next 4 years. That's what democracy is all about. And so if we don't get it right, we are all the ones that will pay for it. So it's not that we are not colonized people that will say the people we are dashing into are the British and all. It's our own fellow Nigerians. So whatever errors have been observed today, that I think the point we are making, we must try to correct them and do better. And so as they are moving to the various collation centers now, or maybe they have already moved there, because I know when I used to participate actively in elections, at this time, maybe coming from Akinegode, we are still around Auchi, still trying to get results ready. You will drive into Benin almost 2 a.m. and all of that. And we hope that there will be protection for the people, and the results that we will eventually get to the centers are the correct resuls.
Yes,
and that is why one positive thing I want to take from the last postponement is that, yes, there were actually problems from what we have seen now, that if the elections had been conducted last weekend, I think it would have been a disaster. Because the situation where, from what we were hearing, even result sheets were not available. I think the reports today, there were a few isolated cases where they now talked of result sheets not being available. But for the bulk of the areas, these things were there. The materials now got to the place. And we also saw that there were these errors, whether deliberate or otherwise, where papers meant for maybe a kitty were being found in Zamfara and things of that nature. That would have been a disaster if that election had been conducted. So we must, as Nigerians, thank God, thank the INEC people that took the decision, even though they were the people that caused the problem. And I want to add on the final note that there seems to have been courage on the part of the INEC chairman. It is not always easy being in this kind of position, as I'm sure it was, because whether it was crocodile tears or whatnot, as people want to say, you found that the opposition was lambasting him, the party in power was lambasting him. It's like, who is really now, who is this guy playing it for? You know what I'm saying? But for him to have been able, under his leadership, to get the kind of thing that we did today, let's hope that we can improve on it.
I think we should also thank the electorate.
Yes, exactly.
Why it was rescheduled.
They came out.
The money they spent so far, in spite of the Ipman directive that fair price should be reduced from 145 to 140. A lot of,
I think he alluded to it that Nigerian voters really tried. They sacrificed. If it's raining, they are there waiting. Determined and all of that.
On that, what are your expectations for INEC in 1 minute?
Well, my expectation is that, last Friday.
Looking at the collation. Looking at the figures.
We went to sleep, hoping that in a few hours we will go to vote. I just hope that we won't go to sleep today now, because by the morning we are hearing some negative things. Like the Prof have said, so far so good. Peaceful, isolated cases of disruptions, but what is critical is the collation and the eventual announcement. For instance, it will be funny if the unit I went to and I know elections did not take place,
you will not hear results.
I not hear results coming from that place.
Okay.
Or a particular result that I have in my unit, by the time INEC is announcing it is turned the other way, that is where there will be problems. In as much as a lawyer, I would want,
to go to court.
I want them to go through petitions and all of that. Exactly.
Yeah.
But as a Nigerian,
yes,
it will tease my heart. As the election result comes out, people accept it. Yes. There is less litigation.
Thank you.
And that will be.
Thank you, Eddie. Okay, to you, Alakwe.
Yes, my worry,
keep to 30 seconds.
Yes, my worry is this. My worry is that we have an INEC that conducted an Osun election. It was inconclusive. Yes. My second worry is that we also have an INEC that conducted an election. It was inconclusive. My third worry is that we have today conducted presidential election, a national assembly election, that let it not be inconclusive. Because INEC, Mahmoud's INEC has been known for inconclusive elections. And so the hopes are high, the stakes are high. Let the people's will prevail at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you.
The 30 seconds.
Let the people's will prevail at the end of the day. Yes. And let us continue to build a new INEC. The National Assembly has helped us by ensuring the Electoral Act has been amended. We are praying that the new president that is coming in should give assent to that amended Electoral Act.
Okay. So
at least by next election, we should be talking about electronic voting.
Thank you, Alakwe. Thank you.
The only group we have not said, let's have a new group, is let's also appeal to our politicians, the active ones out there in the field, to have an additional change.
Thank you.
Let them be more receptive. Let them be more peaceful in their disposition to contestation.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you for making it robust enough, and thank you, Nigerians. Thank you, listeners on Independent Radio, and of course our distinguished viewers on Independent Television. Well, we're still on, and don't forget that tomorrow is another day. Nigeria decides. We are looking at monitoring the collation process as it goes, and we will be bringing you all of this the next tomorrow, precisely as we continue on the program Nigeria Decides on Independent Television. On behalf of the entire production team that made this a success, I'm Philip Omo Gubon, and I'm saying goodbye. We'll do it again tomorrow.